So what's new in this space right now? I mean, we'll all have these cards to get miles or get points. What's new?
Well, I mean, I think what's new over the last several years is the credit card companies have really been battling it out to win consumers, offering huge sign-up bonuses. We were just talking about the 100,000 points that Chase had offered when they first launched that Reserve card. But the problem is with so many points in the marketplace, there's just not enough flights, right? Like, you know, the airlines are at a breaking point where there's not enough award seats. So the credit card companies and the airlines, everyone's been figuring out new ways that you can use your points, from merchandise to experiences, but they're not all good values.
Okay, so talk about the values.
Yeah, in general, and this is why I love points, because it's a currency, unlike crypto. You know, the more knowledge you mine about your frequent flyer miles or credit card points, the more value you can get, which is really cool. You know, it takes a little bit of time to understand the ins and outs, but in general, you don't want to use your credit card points for merchandise. You're going to be getting less than 1 cent per piece in value. And that's how you have to think about your points as a currency. You know, you get the most value, let's say, out of Amex points transferring to partners to book first-class tickets through loyalty programs. But it takes a little bit of time and effort to understand which of those transfer partners make sense.
Okay, so I'm not a millennial, so maybe I don't get how to do it. But like, if I wind up looking at all the options,
Yep.
I'm not going to switch my credit cards every 3 months based on their reward system. So is it
Right.
really going to move the needle for these guys?
Well, you know, so the people who do get a couple cards a year, I mean, with bonuses up to 50, 100,000 points, that's why the average consumer can take free trips every year, as long as you maintain a good credit score and pay your bills off in full. But for example, you know, with Amex points, I know so many people with millions of Amex points, a lot of them will just say, well, let me just use points to take off my statement credit, right? And that's one of the worst uses of points. So the closer you get to cash in general, whether that's a statement credit or even gift cards are really terrible value, is the worst value you get.
So does this all work? I mean, for the credit card companies, do they steal customers from other people, or is this just a matter of staying in place because other people are competing with them?
They're totally making money. I was just with Kristen Lemkaw, the CMO of Chase, and she was saying they just launched Sapphire Banking, right, to win over millennial banking customers. They offered bonus points on mortgages. So, you know, Chase's play is let's get customers in, give them really rich rewards, and then let's make money through balances and investments and all these other things.
And you have sort of the top cards right there for points and miles. Walk us through the other ones.
Yeah, so I mean, the Amex Platinum is great for perks in general and spending power, because Amex is one of the few charge card products out there. So if you're spending a lot of money in a month and need that spend power. In general, the Chase Sapphire Reserve at 3 points per dollar on travel and dining, that's kind of like the favorite amongst real points collectors. And Chase points are really valuable when you redeem directly for hotels or airfare. There's a bunch of different cards out there. I would say at the end of the day, if you're not getting a lot of value from your points, or if you're a points hoarder and you have millions of points, get a cash back card. You know, Citi Double Cash is basically 2% cash back, no annual fee. So think about, you know, you spend $100,000, you get $2,000 in cash back. Which isn't insignificant.
So you've got some fairly, I would say, unusual possible rewards that you can get for these things. For example, a flight simulator.
Yeah.
I mean, why is it that you'd rather take a flight simulator than just take a flight?
Well, you know, for a lot of business travelers, the last thing you want to do is get on another plane, right? So I think it is smart that companies are offering experiences that you can't buy, like those flight simulators. I've redeemed my Starwood Marriott points for, you know, concert experiences. You know, they have a box at MSG so that you can go to Knicks games. I take my dad and brothers to Rangers games every year. You know, to spend $0 cash for a rinkside box seat is a pretty good deal. So some of the experiences are really cool, but you got to, you know, always do the math. That's why when you value these points, make sure you're getting good value for them. If you don't have the time to do it, just get a cash back card.
What's the next iteration of this? So if there's more competition, more like please use a card instead of cash at all times, and they're competing for points and rewards, what's like the next part?
I mean, the next step would be allowing points to be transferred, and a lot of loyalty programs are doing this. Family pooling, JetBlue is doing it, British Airways does it, is giving more fluidity to these frequent flyer miles and points, paying off. You know, you go to dinner with a friend, let me just pay you in my American Airlines miles. Right now, there isn't a whole lot of that, but I see there's a whole lot more of partnerships being inked in this space.
So this all sounds great, and I have a couple of cards we've been talking about here, but I don't have the time to figure all this out. Is there what's the easiest way for me to crunch the numbers and say, okay, that's what I should be doing, that's what I shouldn't be doing?
You know, there's really, well, readingthepointsguy.com is the easiest way in general.
Is that the best way to go on there?
We have a team of 30 writers every day. We come out with posts. If you Google, like, is it worth it to redeem Amex points. What's the most valuable way to redeem Amex points? Our posts come up. But we're working on an app right now that's going to track your points. It'll tell you how many.
I'm after.
Yeah, so it's going to, using tools and logic, which credit card points you should use if you want to go to Bora Bora. And then we're actually working on a way to link up to the airline systems. Right now it's all these disparate systems, but coming in early 2019 we're going to be launching that.
What's the biggest new thing? Not in terms of rewards, but what are you seeing that's innovative right now that's coming down the pike?
I mean, in travel in general, there's a lot of really amazing new resorts opening up, and Conrad Maldives, they just built their first ever underwater resort. So using technology, I think, I'm really excited about the travel space. And
is this basically a way of competing on price without competing on price?
Exactly.
To sort of hide the price a little bit?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, because these credit card companies also own the travel booking agencies that you're redeeming your points through. So they're double dipping in a lot of different ways. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's a rebate. But the great thing about miles and points through credit cards, you're not taxed on them. So you can get, thousands and thousands of dollars in value. But since you don't technically own these points, you're not taxed on them. So let's keep it that way.
So we had a young fellow who's founded Bumped, a startup right now that basically says instead of getting points, instead of getting miles, we'll give you fractional shares in the company. You just sort of declare alignment to Lowe's or to Home Depot, and then every time you use your credit card, are there other people creating things like that might go around points and miles?
There are. There's a bunch of different blockchain travel booking sites where you essentially get a piece of the company, like you just mentioned. None of them have really taken off yet. But I could see, there's such a margin in hotel booking, for example, that, companies are figuring out ways to, in addition to giving you miles for booking a hotel stay, they'll give you a piece of the company. It's interesting, but it hasn't quite taken off yet.